Honey, let's have a baby. Claire Thompson clung to my arm, her eyes full of hope. I glanced at the pregnancy test on the nightstand, two pink lines stark against the white plastic, and let out a cold laugh. 5 years ago, who was it that said she would never, ever have kids? The color drained from her face. I was wrong. I really thought it through. Too late. I pulled my arm away. You made me sign that child-free agreement back then. Now, it's my turn to call the shots. Claire dropped to her knees, sobbing. Please, Jack. The doctor said I only have 6 months. I turned and walked out. Outside the door, her best friend, Sarah Jenkins, was holding a chubby baby boy, smiling at me. Hey, Jack, doesn't he look a little like you? It was 3 a.m, and Claire was throwing up in the bathroom again. I rolled over, trying to sleep through the sound of her retching. 5 years. I'd heard that sound so many times. Every time she drank too much, every time she ate something that didn't agree with her, she'd be sick for hours. Jack! She pushed open the bedroom door, her voice trembling. I think I'm pregnant. My eyes shot open. Claire stood in the doorway, clutching a pregnancy test, her face a ghostly white. A sliver of moonlight cut through the blinds, stretching her shadow long and thin across the floor. Impossible, I said, sitting up. Aren't you on the pill? I forgot. She started toward me, reaching for my hand, but I flinched away. I was so busy with that business trip last month, I must have missed a few days. I stared at the 2 lines on the test, my head buzzing. When we got married 5 years ago, she forced me to sign a post-nup declaring us permanently child-free. She said having a baby would ruin her body, derail her career, and turn her into a haggard housewife. I still had that agreement, locked away in the safe in my study. Get rid of it. I threw the 2 words at her and lay back down. Claire froze. What did you say? I said, get rid of it. I repeated, my eyes closed. I'll go with you to the clinic tomorrow. She burst into tears. Jack, I want this baby. I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. What about what you said 5 years ago? That you'd never have kids, that you'd divorce anyone who tried to make you. What? You've had your fun now. I was wrong. She knelt by the bed. I truly know I was wrong. Lately, seeing all my friends and colleagues with kids, I suddenly realized. Realized what? I cut her off. That growing old alone is miserable, that you need a kid to take care of you. Claire was crying too hard to speak. I sat up and stared in her swollen, red eyes. When you forced me to sign that agreement, I was the one on my knees, begging you. And what did you say? You said if I ever brought up having a kid again, you'd divorce me and make sure I walked away with nothing. She grabbed my arm. I was young and stupid then. Young. I shook her off. You're 32 now. 5 years ago, you were 27. 27 isn't old enough to know what you want. The grandfather clock in the living room chimed 4 times. Claire knelt on the floor, moonlight washing over her face, tears streaming down her cheeks. I pulled the agreement from the nightstand drawer and tossed it in front of her. Article 3, Section 2. Any pregnancy during the marriage must be terminated. You wrote it yourself, signed it, and had it notarized. She stared at the yellowed paper, her body trembling. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, Metropolitan General Hospital. I lay back down, turning my back to her. Claire knelt on the floor for a long time. I listened as her cries softened from sobs to whimpers, then to stifled gasps. As the sky outside began to lighten, she finally picked herself up and stumbled out of the bedroom. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling fan. The scene from 5 years ago flooded my mind. My mom had come over, holding my newborn nephew, her eyes red with joy. She took Claire's hand. Claire, look how adorable he is. You and Jack should have one too. I'll even help you raise him. Claire's expression soured instantly. She pushed my mom out the door. I've told you before, I am not having children. If you want grandchildren, tell your older son to have more. The door slammed shut. My mom was crying in the hallway, and I was on my knees inside. Claire, that's my mother. I know she's your mother. She sat on the couch, painting her nails. So what? Is her opinion gospel? Do I have to listen? I knelt all night. The next day, Claire threw the agreement at me. Sign it, and never mention kids again. If you don't, we get a divorce right now. I signed it. With the pen she handed me, I signed my future away and had it notarized. And now she was pregnant, on her knees, begging me to let her keep the child. The irony was suffocating. At 7 a.m, Claire brought in breakfast. Her eyes were swollen like walnuts, her face frighteningly pale. Jack, eat something. She placed a tray on the nightstand. I made that oatmeal you like. I didn't even look. Not hungry. Please. Her voice shook. I'm begging you. Please don't make me get rid of the baby. I threw back the covers and walked straight to the bathroom. Claire followed, grabbing my arm. I shoved her away. She stumbled back, her spine hitting the wall. Jack! She clutched her stomach, fresh tears welling in her eyes. Why would you push me? Stop acting, I sneered. So, and now you're protecting your stomach? Where was that concern 5 years ago when you were tearing out my heart? When I came out of the bathroom, she was still standing there. I glanced at the clock. It's 8:30. Let's go. Claire suddenly dropped to her knees. Jack, I'm begging you. I really want this baby, please. Get up. I bent down to pull her up. She clung to my legs. I'm not getting up until you agree. Jack, this is our child, the fruit of our love. Love. I crouched down, staring into her eyes. Claire, you want to talk to me about love? What did you say 5 years ago? That love is love, and having kids is having kids. Two separate things. Why is love part of the equation now? She was crying too hard to answer. I stood up and pulled a jacket from the closet. The appointment is at 9. We're going to be late. Claire scrambled to her feet and rushed into the study. By the time I caught up, she had already grabbed my phone and was calling my mom. Mom, I'm pregnant. She sobbed into the phone. Jack won't let me keep it. He wants meat. I snatched the phone and hung up. Claire lunged at me like a madwoman, her nails scratching my face, drawing 3 bloody lines down my cheek. Are you crazy? I grabbed her wrists. I'm not crazy, she screamed hysterically. Jack, this is a life. Our child. How can you be so heartless? I let her go, wiping the blood from my cheek. Heartless? You didn't think you were heartless 5 years ago when you forced that agreement on me. The phone rang. It was my mom calling back. I rejected the call and started pulling Claire toward the door. She fought me, but I dragged her to the elevator. Our neighbor, Mrs. Davis, was just leaving with her dog and stared at us, shocked. Jack, is everything? It's nothing. I forced a smile. Just messing around. The elevator doors closed, and Claire collapsed to the floor. I looked at my reflection in the polished steel. The 3 bloody scratches on my face were stark and accusing. When we got to the hospital parking lot, Claire suddenly spoke. Jack, in my physical last year, they found an ovarian cyst. My hands jerked on the steering wheel. The doctor said if I don't have a baby soon, I might never be able to. She looked down, her voice barely a whisper. This pregnancy, it might be my last chance. I slammed on the brakes, stopping abruptly in front of the emergency entrance. A security guard knocked on the window, telling me to move, but I ignored him. You knew this. I turned to look at her. Claire nodded. They found it last October. The doctor recommended I get pregnant as soon as possible. He said if the cyst keeps growing, they'll have to remove the ovary. So you stopped taking the pill on purpose? She bit her lip, saying nothing. I laughed out loud. Claire, you're really something else. You knew I wouldn't agree, so you decided to play dirty, is that it? I wasn't playing dirty. She clutched her seatbelt. I just want a child. Jack, I was wrong, I really... Shut up. I got out of the car, walked around to the passenger side, and pulled her out. Let's go. Time for your procedure. Claire refused to move. I had to drag her toward the OB/GYN wing as she screamed in the main lobby. You're a monster, Jack. You're not human. Everyone turned to stare. With the fresh scratches on my face, I looked every bit the abusive husband. Security guards ran over. Sir, please don't cause a scene in the hospital. I'm not causing a scene, I said, letting go of Claire. She's pregnant. I'm taking her to get an abortion. Claire took the opportunity to run. I chased after her, catching her at the entrance to the inpatient building. She was sobbing uncontrollably, crouched on the ground, holding her head. If you make me do this, I'm divorcing you. She looked up, her eyes terrifyingly red. Jack, if you make me get rid of this baby, I will leave you. I squatted down to her level. Fine by me. Let's get a divorce. She froze. 5 years ago, you threatened me to sign that agreement. Now you're threatening me to keep this baby. I stood up, brushing off my pants. Claire, the one thing I can't stand in this life is being threatened. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I could hear her heart-wrenching sobs, but I didn't look back. On the drive home, my mom called over a dozen times. I ignored every call, then finally turned my phone off. When I got to our apartment, I realized I'd forgotten my keys. I stood at the door for a moment, then pulled out my phone and texted Claire. I'm outside. Open the door. 10 minutes passed with no response. I texted again. Claire, stop playing games. Open the door. Still nothing. I tried calling her. It went straight to voicemail. A knot of panic tightened in my chest. I sprinted back to the car and sped toward the hospital, running 3 red lights along the way. In the OB/GYN lobby, I found her sitting in a chair, a nurse standing beside her. When she saw me, she shot to her feet. Jack! I closed the distance between us and pulled her into my arms. Claire went stiff for a second, then started struggling wildly. Let go of me. She pushed against my chest. Jack, don't touch me. I held her tighter. I'm sorry. She stopped struggling, her hands frozen in midair. People were staring. The nurse quietly suggested, maybe you two should talk outside. I led Claire out of the hospital. The September sun was brutal, and her face was as white as paper. I'll take you home. I opened the car door. Claire stood rooted to the spot. Weren't you forcing me to have an abortion? I was wrong. I looked at her, truly humbling myself for the first time. We're keeping the baby. Tears instantly flooded her eyes. Are you serious? I'm serious. I took her hand. Let's go home. Halfway there, Claire suddenly said, pull over. I stopped the car on the shoulder. She threw open the door and ran to a nearby trash can, vomiting. I got out to rub her back, but she pushed me away. When she was finished, she wiped her mouth and looked at me, her eyes red. Jack, let's get a divorce. I thought I'd misheard her. What did you say? I said, let's get a divorce. Claire leaned against the trash can, her voice unnervingly calm. You don't really want this child. You hugged me back there because you were afraid I'd do something stupid, right? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. 5 years. I know you too well. She managed a small, sad smile as tears rolled down her cheeks. Jack, you hate me. You hate me for forcing you to sign that agreement, for being awful to your mom, for being so selfish and demanding these past 5 years. I don't. You do, she interrupted. When you were dragging me through the hospital earlier, your eyes were filled with hatred. Jack, I don't blame you. I'm the one who failed you, failed your mom, failed this family. A car sped past, kicking up a cloud of dust. Claire started coughing. I moved to help her, but she sidestepped me. I'm going to have this baby, she said, touching her stomach. But I won't use him to trap you. Jack, let's get a divorce. A clean break. I suddenly grabbed her shoulders. Are you out of your mind? I'm not, she said, looking me straight in the eye. I just finally get it. 4 or 5 years, I've been so selfish, only thinking about my career and my body. I never once considered how you felt, and you're just figuring this out now. I sneered. You think a few nice words will make me forgive you? She shook her head. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I just think there's no point in going on like this. You resent me. I feel guilty. This home has been broken for a long time. I let go of her, looking at her pale face. Fine, we could get a divorce, I said. But the kid stays with me. Claire stared at me, shocked. You want the baby? Of course I do. I lit a cigarette. He's my flesh and blood. Why should I let you take him? She suddenly started laughing, a broken sound that dissolved into tears. Jack, you really are ruthless. I exhaled a cloud of smoke. Takes one to know one. Back home, Claire started packing. I sat on the couch and watched her move back and forth, putting clothes, makeup, and jewelry into a suitcase. Where are you going? I asked. A hotel. She zipped the suitcase shut. I'll have the divorce papers drawn up tomorrow. The baby is yours. I'll walk away with nothing. I stubbed out my cigarette. You make it sound so simple. The baby is still inside you. You can't just hand him over. She paused. Then what do you want? We'll talk about it after the baby is born. I stood up. For the next 9 months, you will stay here and take care of yourself. After you give birth and we sign the papers, you can go wherever you want. Claire stared at me for a long moment, then finally nodded. Fine. She pushed the suitcase back into the bedroom. I thought she'd stay in the master, but she dragged it into the guest room. I'll stay in here, she said. So, I'm not in your way. The door clicked shut. I sat in the living room and lit another cigarette, but my hand was shaking. My phone rang. It was my mom. I took a deep breath and answered. Jack. She started yelling immediately. Are you even human? Claire is pregnant, and you try to force her to have an abortion. Mom. Don't you mom me. She started crying. How did I raise such a monster? Claire is a wonderful girl, and you've treated her like this. I pinched the bridge of my nose. What did she tell you? She didn't tell me anything, my mom sobbed. I called her, and that's when she told me. Jack, what on earth were you thinking? That's your child. I know. And you still. My mom suddenly stopped. Wait, you agreed to let her keep the baby? Yeah. The line was silent for a few seconds, then I heard my mom crying again. Oh, thank God. Thank God. Jack, you finally came to your senses. I didn't say anything. My mom went on, giving me a long list of instructions on how to take care of Claire, saying she'd be over tomorrow to help. After hanging up, I walked to the guest room door. I raised my hand to knock but let it fall. At 10 o'clock, I heard the sound of vomiting from the guest room. I pushed the door open. Claire was leaning over the trash can, heaving. I'll get you some water. I turned to leave. Don't, she said weakly. I can manage. I went to the kitchen anyway and brought back a glass of warm water. Claire took it, sipped, and immediately threw it all up. Should we go to the hospital? I asked. She shook her head and crawled into bed. I stood in the doorway, watching her curl into a ball, a heavy feeling settling in my chest. Claire, I said. I. The words caught in my throat. Never mind. Get some rest. As I closed the door, I heard her say, Jack, thank you. I leaned against the door and lit a cigarette. Through the smoke, my mind drifted back 5 years. Claire had just started at the company, young, beautiful, and fiercely ambitious. She said she wanted to be a powerhouse, a director by 30. I told her I'd support her, but that we needed to have a child. She had laughed and said, sure, as soon as I make director. She did make director, but then she said she was too busy, that we should wait. I waited a year. She was promoted to vice president. I asked about a baby again. She said she had to solidify her new position, that we should wait a little longer. And so we waited for 5 years. My mom visited countless times, and Claire shot her down every single time. I was caught in the middle, torn, and in the end, I gave in. Now she was pregnant, and I didn't want it anymore. It wasn't that I didn't want the baby. I was just resentful. Why was it that when she said no, it was no, but when she said yes, I had to fall in line? What was I to her? A tool? The next morning, my mom arrived early, loaded down with shopping bags. She blew past me and went straight to the guest room. Claire, honey. She pushed the door open. Mom's here to see you. Claire was lying in bed, her face pale. When she saw my mom, tears immediately welled up. Mom. She cried like a little girl. My mom hugged her, crying along with her. The two of them held each other, their sobs filling the room. I stood in the doorway, feeling completely like an outsider. I'm so sorry, honey, my mom said, wiping her tears. I was too hard on you before, always pushing you about having a baby. I get it now. It doesn't matter if you have kids or not, as long as you're happy. Claire shook her head. No, Mom, it was my fault. I was so selfish, only thinking of myself. I never considered your feelings. My mom patted her back. Don't say that. It's all in the past. The most important thing now is to take care of yourself and bring my grandbaby into the world. What if it's a girl? Claire managed a teary smile. A girl would be even better. My mom was overjoyed. Girls are so sweet. I turned and went to my study. I had just sat down when my mom pushed the door open. You out here? Now. She glared at me. I followed her to the living room. She pointed to the couch, ordering me to sit, and then let me have it. Jack, how have you been treating Claire these past few days? I looked down, silent. Claire told me everything, my mom said, her eyes turning red again. You dragged her to the hospital, yelled at her in the lobby, and then just left her there all alone. Jack, are you even a man? You what? She cut me off. I know you've been holding a grudge all these years, but that's in the past. Claire is pregnant now. Can't you be a little kinder to her? I looked up. Mom, she's the one who forced me to sign that agreement. I know, my mom's voice rose. So what? You're going to punish her for the rest of her life? Jack, you have to look forward. Claire knows she was wrong. What more do you want? I fell silent. My mom sighed and sat down next to me. Son, I know you're hurting. I've seen how you've suffered, caught in the middle all these years. But, she patted my shoulder. It hasn't been easy for Claire either. Do you have any idea how hard pregnancy is for a woman? And on top of that, she's worried you don't want her, don't want the baby. Can't you just find it in your heart to soften up a little? I stared out the window for a long time before finally saying, Mom, we're getting a divorce. What? My mom was stunned. She brought it up, I said. The baby will stay with me. She's walking away with nothing. My mom was speechless for a few seconds, then she smacked me on the back of the head. Are you an idiot? She was testing you. If she really wanted a divorce, she would have been long gone. Why would she wait until now? I rubbed my head. She seemed pretty serious. Serious, my foot, my mom said, exasperated. A woman is at her most vulnerable when she's pregnant. You can't take everything she says literally. She just wanted to see if you still cared about her. I froze. If you actually agree to a divorce, she will hate you for the rest of her life, my mom said, poking my forehead. Jack, oh Jack, after all these years, how do you still not understand women? I suddenly stood up and walked toward the guest room. My mom called after me. What are you doing? Winning back my wife. I pushed open the guest room door. Claire was sitting on the bed, staring into space. She looked startled when I came in. Claire, I said, walking to the bed and kneeling beside it. We're not getting a divorce. Her eyes immediately turned red. What did you say? I said, we're not getting a divorce. I took her hand. I want the baby, and I want you too. I'm sorry. I've been a total bastard these past few days. Tears streamed down Claire's face. I reached up to wipe them away, but she suddenly pushed me back. Jack, don't pity me, she said, her voice choked with emotion. I don't need your sympathy. This isn't sympathy. I pulled her into my arms. Claire, I really want to make this work with you. She buried her face in my shoulder and cried like a child. I patted her back, a storm of emotions swirling inside me. Claire's morning sickness got worse. She couldn't stand the smell of cooking oil, and she couldn't eat a single bite of the food my mom made. She survived on fruit and milk, withering away until she was just skin and bones. I took 2 weeks off work to take care of her. Every day, I tried new recipes, making all sorts of bland dishes, but she would barely manage a few bites before throwing it all up again. Should we go to the hospital for an 4 drip? I asked, my heart aching as I looked at her increasingly gaunt face. No, it's fine. She leaned weakly against the headboard. The doctor said it'll get better after the first trimester. My mom was busy in the kitchen. She brought in a bowl of spicy tomato soup. The moment Claire smelled it, her eyes lit up. Mom, what's this? Spicy tomato soup, my mom said cautiously. Want to try some? Claire took a sip and, for the first time in days, didn't throw up. Her eyes welled with tears. It's delicious. My mom was so thrilled, she immediately went back to make a whole new pot. Claire managed to finish half a bowl, finally getting some food down. That night, I held her as we lay in bed. She buried her head in my chest and whispered, Jack, am I completely useless? Of course not. I kissed the top of her head. Getting pregnant and turning into this wreck, she sighed. I wonder if I'll be even uglier after the baby is born. I gently pinched her nose. Don't be silly. You'll always be the most beautiful woman in the world to me. She smiled, but a tear escaped the corner of her eye. The next morning, I got a call from the office. An urgent project required my immediate attention. I looked at Claire, still sleeping, and hesitated. Jack, you should go, my mom said, pushing the door open. I'll take care of Claire. I still wasn't sure. Mom, right now she's... I know, my mom cut me off. Just focus on your work. I've got everything handled here. I kissed Claire's forehead and whispered, I have to go to the office. I'll be back soon. She mumbled a sleepy, okay. It was only 8 o'clock when I got to the office. I had barely sat down when my assistant, Evans, knocked on the door. Mr. Miller, Ms. Jenkins is looking for you. Sarah Jenkins was Claire's best friend and our company's marketing director. We weren't particularly close. What did she want? I knocked on her office door. Sarah was breastfeeding her baby. She quickly covered up when she saw me. Sorry, Mr. Miller. He just turned 1 month. Can't be away from him for a minute. She smiled, a little embarrassed. I glanced at the baby in the bassinet and felt a sudden pang. Claire was almost 2 months along. In just a few more months, I would be a father, too. You wanted to see me? I sat down. Sarah hesitated for a moment. Mr. Miller. Jack, how has Claire been feeling lately? The morning sickness has been pretty bad, I said, but she's managing to eat a little. She breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Actually, I asked you here because there's something I need to tell you. I looked at her, waiting. Claire. She was diagnosed with an ovarian cyst during her physical last year. Sarah bit her lip. The doctor said if it wasn't treated, it could affect her fertility. A stone dropped in my stomach. I know. She told me. She told you. Sarah looked surprised. Then do you know that this pregnancy might be her last chance? I nodded. Sarah was silent for a moment. Jack, I know Claire hasn't always been fair to you, but she's really turned a corner this time. Could you maybe be a little easier on her? I looked at Sarah and asked suddenly, is there something you're not telling me? She looked startled, then shook her head. No, nothing. I just wanted to speak up for Claire. I stared at her for a few more seconds, then stood up to leave. At the door, I turned back. Sarah, is Claire hiding something from me? Sarah looked down and said nothing. A deep sense of unease settled over me. Back in my office, I found Claire's medical report from last year. Ovarian cyst. Recommended surgical removal or immediate pregnancy. That was it. Nothing else. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I went home at noon to bring Claire lunch. As I opened the door, I heard her on the phone in the guest room. I know. I'll be careful. Yes, I haven't told him. We can talk about it after the baby is born. I pushed the door open. The moment Claire saw me, her face changed. I have to go. She hung up quickly. Who was that? I asked. Sarah, she said with a forced smile. Just checking in on me. I walked over and picked up her phone to check the call log. The last call was from Dr. Peterson. Who's Dr. Peterson? Claire froze for a second. My primary care doctor. What were you talking about? Just asking about some precautions. Her eyes darted around the room. You know, with the pregnancy, you have to be careful. I stared at her for a long time, and she grew visibly uncomfortable under my gaze. Jack, what's wrong? Nothing. I handed her back the phone. Let's eat. During lunch, I watched her every move. She barely ate, pushing the food around her plate before putting her fork down. Not hungry? I asked. A little nauseous, she said, rubbing her stomach. Probably just the morning sickness. I poured her a bowl of soup. She took a few sips, then immediately threw it up. I helped her to the bathroom and watched her heave over the toilet, my heart twisting in my chest. Should we go to the hospital? No, it's fine. she said, wiping her mouth. The doctor said this is normal. I helped her back to bed. She closed her eyes, her face frighteningly pale. I called Dr. Peterson. A middle-aged woman answered the phone. Hello, who is this? This is Jack Miller, Claire Thompson's husband, I said. I wanted to ask about my wife's current condition. Mr. Miller, Dr. Peterson interrupted. We've discussed Ms. Thompson's situation before. She's 2 months pregnant, and while her morning sickness is severe, it's within the normal range. Is that all? There was a pause on the other end. Mr. Miller, there are some things that Ms. Thompson should discuss with you herself. Dr. Peterson hesitated. All I can tell you is to please take good care of her and help her maintain a positive state of mind. The unease in my gut grew stronger. Dr. Peterson is my wife. I'm sorry, Mr. Miller. I cannot disclose patient information. With that, Dr. Peterson hung up. I stared at my phone, my mind a chaotic mess. That night, Claire finally fell into a restless sleep. I sat by the bed, watching her, Dr. Peterson's words echoing in my head. There are some things that Ms. Thompson should discuss with you herself. Where's she hiding from me? I opened her phone. The passcode was still my birthday. I went to her messages and found the chat history with Dr. Peterson. The most recent message was from that afternoon. Claire, Dr. Peterson, what should I do now? Dr. Peterson, Ms. Thompson, I strongly advise you to inform your family immediately. Your current physical condition is not suitable for pregnancy. If you continue, the rest of the message was deleted. My heart hammered against my ribs. I scrolled up and found a conversation from a month ago. Dr. Peterson, Ms. Thompson, we have your test results. The ovarian cyst has turned malignant. I recommend surgery as soon as possible. Claire, but I'm pregnant. Dr. Peterson, the pregnancy will accelerate the condition. Ms. Thompson, I have to be clear with you. If you insist on carrying this child to term, you could be risking your life. Claire, I know, but this is my last chance. Dr. Peterson, please help me. I have to have this baby. The phone slipped from my hand. I sat on the edge of the bed, my mind completely blank. Risking her life. Claire's pregnancy could kill her, and she hadn't said a word to me. I turned to look at her. She was sleeping soundly, her brow slightly furrowed, her lips pale. And then I understood everything. Why she suddenly wanted a child. Why she had offered to divorce me. Why she had said, the baby will stay with you. I'll walk away with nothing. Because she knew she might not survive the birth. She might deliver the baby, but she wouldn't live to raise him. My hands started to shake. I wanted to wake her up, to scream at her, to ask her why she would hide this from me, why she would gamble with her own life. But I was afraid. I was terrified to hear the answer. I tiptoed out of the bedroom and called Dr. Peterson. She didn't answer. I called a dozen more times before she finally picked up. Mr. Miller, it's the middle of the night. I know about my wife's condition. I cut her off. Dr. Peterson, I need to know, how long does she have? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. That depends on the choice she makes, Dr. Peterson said with a sigh. If she terminates the pregnancy now and has the surgery immediately, there's a very good chance. But if she insists on having the baby, what will happen? Mr. Miller, the cancer is aggressive. The hormonal changes during pregnancy will cause the tumor to grow much faster. By the 3rd trimester, it could rupture or metastasize at any time. My hand holding the phone was trembling. And during childbirth, the risk of a major hemorrhage is extremely high, Dr. Peterson said, her voice heavy. Mr. Miller, I have to be honest with you. Given your wife's current condition, if she insists on carrying the baby to term, her survival rate is less than 30%. I hung up the phone and collapsed on a couch. Less than 30%. That meant there was a 70% chance that Claire would die on the delivery table. And she hadn't told me anything. She was pretending like everything was fine, smiling through her meals, talking about the future, planning for the baby's arrival. I stormed back into the bedroom and pulled her into my arms. Jack! She woke up disoriented. What's wrong? I held her, my voice shaking. Claire, we're not having the baby. She froze. We're going to the hospital tomorrow, and we're terminating the pregnancy. I kissed her forehead, my tears falling on her face. We're not having the baby, okay? Claire looked at me, tears slowly welling in her own eyes. You know, it wasn't a question, it was a statement. I nodded, my grip on her tightening. Why didn't you tell me? Why would you hide this from me? Because I knew if I told you, you wouldn't let me do it. She cupped my face, her tears flowing freely. Jack, this is my last chance. I want to give you a child. I want to give this family a child. I don't want it. I yelled. I don't want a goddamn child. I just want you to live. Claire wrapped her arms around my neck and sobbed like a little girl. The next morning, I tried to take Claire to the hospital. She refused to go, clinging to the doorframe. I had to pry her fingers off, and then she just sat on the floor, weeping. Jack, please, she begged, grabbing my pant leg. Let me have this baby, please. No. I crouched down, wiping the tears from her face. Claire, listen to me. We can have another child someday, but there's only one of you. I can't lose you. But the doctor said I might never be able to get pregnant again, she cried, gasping for breath. Jack, this is our only child. I held her close. So what? We can have a wonderful life without children. My mom, standing nearby, chimed in. Claire, honey, Jack's right. Your health is the most important thing right now. We can worry about kids later. Claire just kept shaking her head, tears streaming down her face. Mom, I know how much you've always wanted a grandchild. I can't disappoint you again. You silly girl. My mom started crying, too. I don't want a grandchild. I just want you to be okay. Claire still wouldn't budge. I finally had to lift her in my arms and carried her out the door. She struggled, crying, Jack, put me down. You can't do this to me. The neighbors all came out to stare. I ignored them, rushing her into the elevator. Once we were at the hospital, Claire suddenly grew quiet. She leaned against me and whispered, Jack, if I die, will you marry someone else? My heart seized. You're not going to die. I'm just saying if, she insisted, looking up at me. If I really die, will you marry someone else and have kids with her? I gripped her chin, my voice low and fierce. Claire, you listen to me. I only want you. For the rest of my life. If you die, I'm going with you. She smiled, but the tears fell even faster. After a series of tests, Dr. Peterson called me into her office. Mr. Millam is. Thompson's condition is not good. She laid out a stack of reports. The tumor has grown to 8 centimeters and is showing signs of malignancy. I recommend terminating the pregnancy immediately and proceeding with surgery as soon as possible. I nodded. When can we schedule it? The sooner, the better, Peterson said. Preferably tomorrow. I went back to the hospital room. Claire was sitting on the bed, staring blankly. She forced a smile when she saw me. What did the doctor say? Surgery is tomorrow. I sat on the edge of the bed and took her hand. Don't be scared. I'll be with you the whole time. She nodded, tears welling up again. That evening, my mom came with dinner. Claire took a few bites and threw it all up. My mom was heartbroken, constantly dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Mom, please don't cry, Claire said, trying to comfort her. I'm going to be fine. My mom held her hand. Claire, honey, I'm so sorry. If I hadn't been pushing you so hard to have a baby, you wouldn't have. Mom, it's not your fault, Claire said, shaking her head. I'm the one who wanted this baby. I sat beside them, listening, a heavy weight pressing down on my chest. In the middle of the night, Claire was jolted awake by a sharp pain in her abdomen. I called for a doctor, who explained it was likely the tumor pressing on her organs. She told her to hang in there until the surgery in the morning. But Claire was drenched in a cold sweat, her face as white as the sheets. I held her, wishing I could take the pain for her. Jack, she whispered, gripping my hand. If during the surgery, they have to choose between me and the baby, who do you pick? Without a moment's hesitation, I said. She smiled. I knew you would. Claire, don't think like that, I said, kissing her forehead. The doctor said the surgery is safe. You're going to be fine. She nodded, but then she started crying again. Jack, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have hidden this from you. I shouldn't have gambled with my life. I thought if I could give you a baby, you would finally forgive me for how awful I've been all these years. I held her tighter. You fool. I forgave you a long time ago. At 3 in the morning, Claire finally drifted off to sleep. I sat by her bed, looking at her pale face, my heart aching. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Sarah, Mr. Miller, how is Claire? Me. Surgery is tomorrow. Sarah, Jack, I want you to know, Claire's always loved you so much. She told me once that the best thing that ever happened to her was marrying you. I looked at the message, and tears streamed down my face. The next morning, a nurse came to prep Claire for surgery. I held her hand, refusing to let go. Jack, don't worry, she said with a smile. I'll be okay. I know. I kissed her hand. When you get out, we'll go home. The doors to the operating room swung shut. I leaned against the wall, my legs feeling like jelly. My mom pulled me down into a chair. Don't be scared. Claire is strong. She'll pull through this. 3 hours later, the light above the door went off. Dr. Peterson came out, pulling off her mask. I rushed over and grabbed her arm. Doctor, how is my wife? The surgery was a success, Dr. Peterson said with a smile. Ms. Thompson is a fighter. She made it. My knees buckled, and I nearly collapsed. However, Dr. Peterson paused. During the operation, we confirmed that the tumor had turned malignant. While we were able to remove it, it means Ms. Thompson will likely never be able to conceive again. I froze. Mr. Miller, I know this is a heavy blow, Dr. Peterson said with a sigh. But at least we saved her life. That's the best possible outcome. I nodded, tears finally falling. When they wheeled Claire out of the operating room, she was still unconscious. I took her hand and walked alongside the gurney to her room. Her face was ashen, her lips cracked, her hair a mess. But to me, she was still the most beautiful woman in the world. I leaned down and placed a gentle kiss on her forehead. Welcome back, sweetheart. Claire woke up the next evening. She opened her eyes, saw me sitting by her bed, and after a moment of confusion, she smiled. So I'm still alive. I squeezed her hand. Of course you are. Her hand went to her flat stomach, and tears immediately welled in her eyes. The baby's gone, isn't he? I nodded. She turned her head to look out the window, tears silently tracing paths down her temples. I didn't know what to say. All I could do was hold her hand and sit with her in silence. After a long time, she finally spoke. Jack, let's get a divorce. I thought I had heard her wrong. What did you say? I said, let's get a divorce. She turned back to me, her eyes red and raw. I can't have children now. What's the point of you being married to me? I was so angry I almost laughed. Claire, have you lost your mind? No, I haven't. She looked at me with dead seriousness. Jack, you're still young, she said, her voice flat. You can find someone who can give you children. I don't want to hold you back. I gripped her chin, forcing her to look at me. Claire Thompson, you listen to me, and you listen good. I want one person in this life, and that person is you. I don't give a damn whether you can have children or not. Tears streamed down her face. But your mom. My mom doesn't care either. I cut her off. Didn't you hear what she said? She just wants you to be healthy and happy. Claire stared at me, the tears flowing unabated. I leaned forward and kissed them away. You fool. Stop thinking about this. Just focus on getting better so we can go home. She wrapped her arms around my neck and cried like a child. The day Claire was discharged, Sarah came to visit with her baby. The moment Claire saw the chubby little boy, her eyes turned red. She reached out to hold him, then pulled her hands back. Claire, what's wrong? Sarah asked. Nothing, Claire said with a weak smile. He's just so adorable. Sarah placed the baby in her arms. Then hold him. You and Jack can always adopt one day. Claire held the baby, and a tear splashed onto his cheek. He let out a wail. She quickly handed him back to Sarah. I'm so sorry, she said, frantically wiping her own tears. I didn't mean to. I walked over and put my arm around her. It's okay. Babies cry. Back home, Claire locked herself in the bedroom. She wouldn't answer when I knocked, and when I asked what she wanted to eat, she'd just say she wasn't hungry. My mom couldn't take it anymore. She pushed open the door and pulled Claire out. Claire, what are you doing? Mom, I just want to be alone for a while, Claire said, her head bowed. Alone for a while? My mom's voice rose. You've been in there for 3 days. How are you going to recover if you keep this up? Claire didn't answer, but tears started to fall. My mom sighed and pulled her down to sit on the couch. Claire, honey, I know you're hurting, but you have to look forward. The most important thing now is to get your strength back. Nothing else matters. But I can't have children anymore, Claire sobbed. Mom, I failed you. I failed Jack. You haven't failed anyone. I knelt in front of her and took her hands. Claire, listen to me. I didn't marry you to be an incubator. I married you because I love you. She looked at me, crying even harder. I know you're hurting right now, and you feel like you've let me and my mom down, I said, wiping a tear from her cheek. But you need to understand, Claire. To us, you are more important than anything. My mom was crying beside us now, too. Claire, honey, the luckiest day of my life was the day Jack married you. You haven't failed us. We're the ones who failed you. Claire collapsed into my mom's arms, her sobs echoing through the quiet house. That night, Claire finally ate. Not much, but it was a start. I watched her take each bite, a knot of tension in my chest finally loosening. Before we went to sleep, she asked me, Jack, do you really not care that I can't have kids? I held her close. I really don't. Will you regret it later? Never. I kissed her forehead. The best decision I ever made was marrying you. She snuggled against me. Jack, thank you. I patted her back. Silly girl. Nothing to thank me for. A few days later, I went back to work. As soon as I got to my office, my assistant told me Sarah wanted to see me. I went to her office. She was playing with her son. She smiled when I came in. Jack, have a seat. I sat down. What's up? Sarah hesitated. Jack, there's something I think you should know. I waited. Claire, she has always had this deep-seated insecurity, Sarah began with a sigh. Ever since she was a kid, she's felt like she wasn't good enough for you. Your family has money. You're handsome. You've always treated her so well. She felt like she could never measure up. I was stunned. That's why she worked so hard. She was desperate to prove herself, Sarah continued. It wasn't that she didn't want kids. She was just terrified that if she had a baby, she would lose herself and become completely dependent on you. I was silent. And about her illness? She knew about it for a while, Sarah said, looking at me. She hid it from you because she didn't want you to worry. She thought that if she could just give you a child, even if she died, at least you'd have a part of her left. My hand started to shake. Jack, Claire loves you more than anything, Sarah said, her eyes red. She truly believes that marrying you was the best thing she ever did. I stood up and walked out of the room. Jack, Sarah called after me. Where are you going? Home. I sped home, running at least 2 red lights. I burst through the door. Claire was on the couch, watching TV. She looked startled. What are you doing home? I walked over and pulled her into a fierce hug. Jack, she gasped, struggling for breath. What's wrong? I held her, my voice trembling. Claire, don't you ever say you're sorry to me again. She froze. You have nothing to be sorry for. I'm the one who should be sorry. I kissed her hair. You've been carrying so much pain for all these years, and I never even knew. Claire wrapped her arms around my waist, her tears soaking my shirt. Jack, I wasn't in pain. You were. I pulled back to look her in the eyes. Claire, I know you've always felt like you weren't good enough for me, but you need to know in my eyes, you're better than anyone. She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I don't want you to kill yourself at work to prove a point, and I sure as hell don't want you risking your life for me, I said, cupping her face. All I want is for you to be here, healthy and safe, with me. Claire cried like a child. I held her, patting her back, and swore to myself that I would never let her feel that way again. That night, we talked for hours. Claire told me about her childhood, growing up poor, always feeling like she was less than everyone else. When she met me, that insecurity intensified. That's why I threw myself into my work, she said, curled up against me. I wanted to show you that I wasn't just some woman who needed a man to survive. I kissed her hair. You fool. You never had to prove anything to me. But I was scared, she confessed, clutching my shirt. I was so scared that one day, you'd wake up and realize I wasn't good enough, and you'd leave me. Never. I held her tighter. Claire, you listen to me. I will only ever love you, and I will never, ever leave you. She hugged me, her sobs finally subsiding. The next day, I took Claire to the coast. We sat on the beach and watched the sunset. Jack, she said, leaning her head on my shoulder. What are we going to do now? What do you mean? About kids, she said quietly. I know your mom has always wanted grandchildren. I turned her face toward me. Claire, listen to me. I don't care if we have kids or not. I only care about you. But, no buts, I interrupted. If you really want a child, we can adopt. But if you don't, then we'll spend the rest of our lives, just the 2 of us. She looked at me, her eyes welling up again. Jack, I don't deserve you. Don't say that, I said, kissing her forehead. You deserve the best of everything. The last rays of the sun shimmered on the water. We sat there in silence, holding each other. When we got home, my mom had dinner ready. Go wash up, she said with a smile. I made your favorite sweet and sour pork. Claire started to help in the kitchen, but my mom shooed her out. You're still recovering. Don't overdo it. Go sit down. Jack and I can handle this. During dinner, my mom suddenly said, Claire, honey, I wanted to talk to you about something. Claire looked up. What is it, Mom? I was thinking, what would you and Jack think about adopting a child? My mom asked cautiously. I'm not trying to pressure you. I just think it might be nice to have a little one running around. Claire froze and glanced at me. I took her hand. Mom, we'll think about it. Okay, my mom said quickly. It was just a thought. No rush. That night, Claire tossed and turned in bed. I held her. What's wrong? Jack, what your mom said about adopting. What do you think? She asked quietly. I thought for a moment. Do you want to? I don't know, she sighed. I'm afraid I wouldn't be a good mother to someone else's child. Then we won't do it, I said, kissing her forehead. The 2 of us are enough. Claire turned to face me. Jack, you really don't mind? I really don't, I said seriously. Claire, I married you to spend my life with you, not to have kids. Her eyes turned red again. I pinched her nose gently. All right, no more crying. Your eyes are going to swell shut. She gave a small, teary laugh and snuggled closer. The next day at the office, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Mr. Jack Miller? Speaking. Who is this? I'm calling from the city adoption agency, the person said. We're calling regarding a matter we'd like to confirm with you. I was confused. What is it? A little while ago, someone submitted an adoption inquiry under your wife, Claire Thompson's name, the staff member explained. When we called to confirm, Ms. Thompson said she was the one who registered. However what? Today we received an anonymous tip that someone might have used Ms. Thompson's identity without her permission, the person said. So we wanted to confirm with you directly, does Ms. Thompson have a genuine interest in adoption? My mind went numb. When was this registered? 3 months ago. 3 months ago. Right when Claire had found out she was pregnant. I hung up and immediately called Claire. She answered right away. Jack, did you register for adoption at the city agency? I asked directly. There was a pause on the other end. How did you know? She asked in a small voice. I pinched the bridge of my nose. They just called me. Claire, why did you hide this from me? She started to choke up. At the time, I thought I might not survive the birth. I just thought, if something happened to me, at least you would still have a child. My heart clenched. You fool. I'm sorry, Jack. I shouldn't have kept it from you, she sobbed. I wanted to leave you with something to remember me by. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Claire, are you home right now? Yes. Stay there. I'm on my way. I left work and rushed home. When I opened the door, Claire was standing in the living room, her eyes red and puffy. I walked over and pulled her into my arms. Don't you ever do something so stupid again. She buried her face in my shoulder and cried. I led her to the couch. Claire, listen to me. About adopting a child. If you want to, we will. If you don't, we won't. But whatever we do, you have to talk to me first. She nodded. I know. So, what do you want to do now? I asked. Claire bit her lip, hesitating for a long time before finally shaking her head. I don't want to. Why not? I'm afraid I'll mess it up, she said, looking down. Jack, I couldn't even protect my own child. How can I take care of someone else's? I tilted her chin up, forcing her to look at me. Claire, what happened was not your fault. But I still feel like I let you down, she said, tears welling up again. I sighed and pulled her into a hug. You fool. When are you going to stop thinking like that? She wrapped her arms around my waist and said nothing. After a while, I said suddenly, let's go on a trip. A trip? She looked up at me. Yeah, just the two of us. I smiled. We can go to that place you've always wanted to see. Claire's eyes lit up. Really? Of course. I gently tapped her nose. As soon as you're fully recovered, we'll go. She threw her arms around me, laughing like a child. 2 months later, I took Claire to the Maldives. We stayed in an overwater bungalow, slept in every day, walked on the beach, went snorkeling, and watched the sunrise and sunset. Jack, do you think we could be like this forever? She asked one evening, nestled in my arms. Of course we can, I said, holding her close. We have all the time in the world. She smiled, but her eyes were misty. Jack, the luckiest thing that ever happened to me was marrying you. I kissed her hair. I'm the lucky one. The setting sun painted the ocean in shades of gold. We just sat there, in the quiet, perfect moment. After we got back, Claire's spirits were noticeably higher. She stopped isolating herself and started seeing her friends again. One day, Sarah invited her out for coffee. I drove her there. Sarah was holding her chubby little boy. Claire. Sarah waved with a smile. Claire walked over, glanced at the baby, and smiled. This little guy has gotten bigger. Tell me about it, Sarah said, placing the baby in her arms. Here, say hi to your godmother. Claire took the baby, a natural smile on her face. I watched from the car, a sense of relief washing over me. She was finally coming back to herself. When Claire got home that evening, she was bubbling with excitement. Jack, Sarah is starting her own consulting firm, and she asked me to help her. Do you want to? I asked. Yes. Her eyes were sparkling. I'm just sitting around at home anyway. It would be good to have something to do. I squeezed her cheek. Then you should do it. But don't overwork yourself, okay? I know, she said, wrapping her arms around my neck. Jack, you're so good to me. I kissed her. Of course I am. You're my wife. Claire started working at Sarah's new firm. I would drop her off in the morning and pick her up in the evening. One night, when I arrived, I saw her and Sarah playing with the baby. The baby was giggling, and the smile on Claire's face was the most tender thing I had ever seen. I stood in the doorway for a moment, a strange ache in my chest. On the way home, I asked her, Claire, you still want a child, don't you? She looked startled, then shook her head. No, of course not. Don't lie to me. I took her hand. I saw the way you were looking at Sarah's son. Claire was silent for a moment, then said quietly, Jack, honestly, I don't know. Sometimes when I see other people's kids, I feel a pang of envy. But what? But I'm happy just like this, she said, looking at me seriously. Having you is enough. I pulled the car over, turned, and hugged her. Claire, if you really want a child, we will adopt one. But you said you didn't care. I don't, I said, pulling back. But I do care about whether you're happy. If having a child will make you happy, then that's what I want. Claire looked at me, tears slowly welling in her eyes. The next day, we went to the adoption agency. A staff member greeted us warmly and gave us a tour of the children's playroom. There were about a dozen kids inside, some playing with toys, others drawing. These are all children who were abandoned, the staff member said with a sigh. Some have disabilities, some lost their parents. Claire looked at the children, her eyes turning red. If you decide to adopt, you'll first choose a child, and then we'll conduct a home study to ensure you're capable of providing a stable environment, the staff member explained. The whole process takes about 3 months. Claire nodded, her gaze sweeping across the room. Suddenly, her eyes fixed on a corner. A little girl about 4 or 5 years old was sitting there alone, clutching a worn-out rag doll. She wasn't playing with the other children, just staring into space with empty eyes. "What's her story?" Claire asked. The staff member sighed. "Her name is Lily. She was brought here 3 months ago. Her mother died in a car accident, and her father, unable to cope, took his own life. The poor girl has been through so much trauma, she barely speaks." Claire walked over and knelt in front of Lily. "Hi, my name is Claire." Lily glanced at her, then looked down again. "Your doll is very pretty," Claire said, gently touching the rag doll. "Can I see her?" Lily hesitated, then handed the doll over. Claire took it. "Thank you," she said softly. "Did your mommy give her to you?" Lily nodded, her eyes welling with tears. Claire gave the doll back and gently hugged the little girl. "It's okay. Don't be scared. I'm here." Lily froze for a second, then threw her arms around Claire's neck and started to cry. I stood nearby, watching Claire hold Lily, a warmth spreading through my chest. On the way home, Claire was quiet. "What are you thinking about?" I asked. "Jack, I want to adopt Lily," she said, turning to me. "Can we?" I took her hand. "Of course we can. But she has emotional issues. It might be really difficult," Claire said, biting her lip. "And I don't know if I can be a good mom." I pulled the car over and looked at her seriously. "Claire, you'll be a great mom. I believe in you." Her eyes turned red. "Thank you, Jack." We started the adoption process. A social worker visited our home several times to conduct the home study. When my mom found out, she was ecstatic. "This is wonderful. I'm finally going to have a granddaughter." "Mom, you don't mind that she's not our biological grandchild?" Claire asked nervously. "Silly girl, the child you raise is your own," my mom said, taking her hand. "I don't care about any of that. All that matters is that you two are happy." 3 months later, we finally brought Lily home. As she walked through the door, she clutched her rag doll tightly, her eyes wide with anxiety. "Lily, this is your home now," Claire said, kneeling down to her level. "This is Daddy, and this is Grandma. We're all going to take good care of you." Lily looked at us and nodded slowly. My mom had prepared a child's bedroom for her, complete with pink walls, adorable bedsheets, and a mountain of toys. "Lily, look, this is the room Grandma got ready for you," my mom said, taking her hand. "Do you like it?" Lily's eyes widened at the sight of all the toys, a flicker of light in them, but she remained silent. In the days that followed, Lily slowly began to adjust to her new home. She still didn't talk much, but she started following Claire around like a little shadow. Claire was endlessly patient with her, playing with her every day, reading her stories, and taking her to the park. One evening, I found Claire in the nursery, holding Lily and softly humming a lullaby. Lily was nestled in her arms, her small hand clutching Claire's shirt, fast asleep. I stood in the doorway, a warmth spreading through my chest. Claire turned and saw me, a gentle smile on her face. In that moment, she looked radiant, glowing with a soft, maternal light. A month later, Lily spoke for the first time. That night, after Claire had finished reading her story, she stood up to leave. Lily suddenly grabbed her hand and whispered, "Mommy, don't go." Claire froze, tears instantly flooding her eyes. "Mommy's not going, sweetheart. Mommy's staying right here." She hugged Lily tightly, sobbing with joy. I stood in the doorway, my own eyes burning. From that day on, Lily started to talk more and more. She was still shy, but it was a world of difference from when she first arrived. Claire would rush home from work every day, worried Lily would be waiting for her. She handed over most of her responsibilities at the firm to Sarah, dedicating herself completely to taking care of Lily. "Claire, aren't you exhausted?" I asked one night, watching her slump against the bed frame after putting Lily to sleep. "Not at all," she said with a smile. "Jack, I've never been happier. Really, really." She leaned into my arms. I always felt like something was missing in my life. Now, with Lily, everything feels complete. I kissed her hair. "Claire, thank you." "For what?" "Thank you for being willing to raise Lily with me," I said, holding her tight. "Thank you for making our family whole." She buried her face in my shoulder, her happy tears soaking my shirt. 6 months after Lily came to live with us, she was a completely different child. She started calling me Daddy, Claire Mommy, and my mom Grandma. Her voice was still quiet, but her eyes shone every time she said our names. On the first day of kindergarten, Claire held Lily's hand as she walked her school. "Lily, you have to listen to your teacher, okay?" Claire said, kneeling to straighten her clothes. "Okay," Lily nodded. "Mommy will be here to pick you up after school. Claire said, kissing her forehead. You be a good girl. Mommy. Lily suddenly threw her arms around Claire's neck. I'm going to miss you. Claire's eyes turned red, and she hugged her tightly. Mommy will miss you too. I stood beside them, my heart full. On the way home from school, Lily chattered nonstop about her day. Mommy, the teacher said I'm a good artist. She held up a drawing. This is our family. Claire took the drawing. On it were 4 crooked stick figures. Tears streamed down her face. It's beautiful, she said, her voice choked. You did such a good job, sweetie. When we got home, Claire taped the drawing to the refrigerator. Lily clapped her hands in delight and ran to show my mom. I put my arm around Claire, and seeing the blissful smile on her face, I said suddenly, Sweetheart, let's make a pact. What kind of pact? Every year, on this day, we'll take a family photo with Lily, I said. When she's older, she can look back and see how much she's grown. Claire nodded, smiling through her tears. Okay. That night, we took our first official family photo. In it, Lily stood between us, Claire and I each holding one of her hands. My mom stood beside us, beaming. Looking at the photo, I knew this was the life I had always wanted. A loving wife, a child, my mother, a warm home. It was enough. With Lily in school, our house was livelier than ever. Every day, she would come home and tell Claire all about her day at kindergarten, who she played with, what praise she got from her teacher. Claire always listened patiently, her eyes full of love. One day, Lily pulled a handmade card from her backpack. On it, in shaky letters, were the words, I love you, Mommy. Claire looked at the card, and tears began to fall. Mommy, why are you crying? Lily asked, alarmed. Did I do something wrong? No, sweetie, Claire said, pulling her into a hug. Mommy's just so happy. Lily, looking a little confused, reached up and wiped away her mother's tears with her tiny hand. I watched them, my heart melting. Over the weekend, we took Lily to an amusement park. She loved the carousel, riding it over and over, her face lit up with pure joy each time. Daddy, Mommy, look at me, she yelled from her painted horse, waving at us. Claire was busy snapping pictures, her smile even wider than Lily's. When we were all tired out, we sat on a bench to rest. Lily leaned against Claire and whispered, Mommy, I had so much fun today. Why is that, sweetie? Claire asked, stroking her hair. Because Daddy and Mommy were with me, Lily said, looking up with shining eyes. I've never been this happy before. Claire's eyes turned red, and she hugged her tightly. Lily, Daddy, and Mommy will always be with you. I put my arm around them both, my heart overflowing with happiness. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Claire and I sat in the living room, looking at the toys she had left scattered on the couch. Jack, Claire said quietly. Thank you, she said, turning to me, her eyes misty. Thank you for being willing to adopt Lily with me. Thank you for letting me know what it feels like to be a mother. I took her hand. Silly girl, I'm the one who should be thanking you. Why? Thank you for making our family whole, I said, kissing the back of her hand. Thank you for giving me a daughter. Claire collapsed into my arms, her tears wetting my shirt. The next day was Monday, and I went back to the office. My assistant informed me that Sarah wanted to see me. I went to her office. She was organizing some files. Jack, have a seat. I sat down. What's going on? Here, Sarah said, handing me a file. This is Claire's performance review for the last 6 months. Even with all the time she's taken off, her numbers have been excellent. I'd like to promote her. I glanced through the file. She was right. Then promote her, I said. I'm sure she'll be thrilled. Jack, Sarah hesitated. There's something else. I looked at her. How has Claire been feeling lately? She asked cautiously. She's been great, I said. Why? Nothing, Sarah said, shaking her head. I just feel like she's been a bit tired lately. I wanted to make sure she's getting enough rest. I nodded. I'll keep an eye on her. Back in my office, I called Claire. Honey, have you been feeling tired lately? I'm fine, she said with a laugh. Why the sudden question? Sarah said you seem a little run down and that you should rest more, I said. Maybe you should take a few days off? I don't need to, Claire said. I feel great, really. Before I could say more, she cut in. Jack, I have to go. It's time to pick up Lily from school. After she hung up, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That night, I paid close attention to Claire. She did seem tired. There were faint dark circles under her eyes, and her complexion was a little pale. Honey, are you sure you're sleeping well? I asked. Probably just a little busy at work, she said with a smile. It's nothing. I frowned. Maybe you should get check up tomorrow, just in case. No, it's not necessary, she said, waving her hand. I'm just tired. A few days of rest, and I'll be fine. Before I could press the issue, Lily ran over and pulled on Claire's hand. Mommy, come see the castle I built. Claire followed her into the living room. I stood there, a knot of unease tightening in my stomach. The next day, I secretly called Sarah. Sarah, Is there something wrong with Claire? Sarah was silent for a few seconds. Jack, I'm not sure. I just know she seems exhausted all the time, and I've seen her secretly taking some pills a few times. A cold dread washed over me. What kind of pills? I don't know, Sarah said. She's very private about it. I didn't feel right asking. I hung up, my anxiety growing. That night, while Claire was in the shower, I went through her purse. Tucked away in an inner pocket, I found a bottle of pills. I pulled it out. They were painkillers. My hand started to shake. When Claire came out of the bathroom, she saw me sitting on the bed, holding the bottle, and the color drained from her face. Jack, where does it hurt? I interrupted, my voice trembling. Why are you taking painkillers? She bit her lip, refusing to speak. I stood up and walked over to her. Claire, talk to me. I've just been having some headaches lately, she said, looking down. It's nothing serious. Headaches? I let out a bitter laugh. Headaches that require prescription-strength painkillers? Claire, do you think I'm an idiot? She looked up, her eyes red. Jack, it's really nothing. Then why hide it from me? I grabbed her shoulders. Claire, what's wrong with you? She stared at me, tears slowly streaming down her face. Jack, can you please just let it go? I dropped my hands and took a step back. Let go. Claire, you're my wife. How can I just let it go when something is wrong? She turned her back to me. I didn't want you to worry. You didn't want me to worry? My voice was harsh with disbelief. Seeing you like this, how can I not worry? Claire didn't speak, but her shoulders trembled. I took a deep breath, walked over, and wrapped my arms around her from behind. Honey, please just tell me. What's going on? She leaned back against me and started to sob. Jack, I think I might be sick again. My world tilted on its axis. What is it? I went for my checkup last month, she choked out. The doctor said. He said the cysts are back. Her voice was muffled by her tears. And they're growing fast. My arms tightened around her. What did the doctor say? He recommended another surgery. She turned to face me. But Jack, I don't want to do it. Why not? My voice was shaking. If you don't have the surgery, it'll get worse. I know. She cupped my face. But Jack, Lily is still so young. She needs me. I can't spend months laid up in a hospital again. I grab her hands. Claire, are you crazy? If you don't have this surgery, you could die. I'm not going to die, she said, shaking her head. The doctor said it's not too serious yet. I can control it with medication for now. For how long? I stared at her. A year? 2. And what then? Wait until it's malignant again before you have the surgery. Claire didn't answer, tears streaming down her face. I pulled her into a hug, my own voice trembling. Honey, please don't do this. I'm begging you, have this surgery. Jack, she wrapped her arms around my waist. I really don't want to. The last time, I almost didn't wake up. I'm scared. I'm so scared that this time I won't come back. My tears fell on her shoulder. You will. I know you will. We held each other and cried for a long time that night. The next day, I took time off work and went with Claire to the hospital. Dr. Peterson looked at the test results, her expression grim. Ms. Thompson, I strongly recommend you have this surgery as soon as possible. The cysts have already grown to 10 centimeters. If we wait any longer, it could be very dangerous. Doctor, is there any way I can control it with medication for now? Claire asked. Medication can only alleviate the symptoms, not cure the problem, Dr. Peterson said, shaking her head. And in your condition, it would be a temporary solution at best, maybe for 3 months. If you don't have a surgery by then, the cysts could rupture or become cancerous. Claire's face went pale, and her grip on my hand tightened. Doctor, what are the risks of the surgery? I asked. Higher than last time, Dr. Peterson sighed. The last cysts were benign. This time, there are signs of malignancy. The surgery will be more complex, and we may have to perform a full hysterectomy. I looked at Claire. She was staring at the floor, tears silently falling. Doctor, can I have a few days to think about it? She asked in a small voice. You can, Dr. Peterson nodded. But please don't wait too long. I'd like to have a decision by the end of the month. On the way home, Claire was silent. I held her hand. Honey, let's do the surgery. Jack, I'm scared, she said, looking at me, her eyes filled with terror. I'm so scared. I pulled the car over and held her. I know you're scared, but honey, we can't wait. She buried her face in my shoulder, her sobs tearing through me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Claire was awake, too, lying quietly in my arms. Jack, she whispered. If something happens to me, you have to take good care of Lily, she said. And your mom. She's getting older. You have to spend more time with her. I pressed my hand over her mouth. Don't talk like that. She pulled my hand away and looked at me seriously. Jack, I'm just saying if. Promise me, okay? I looked at her, tears welling in my eyes. Claire, nothing's going to happen to you. I know, she said with a faint smile. But I still want you to promise me. I held her tighter. I promise. But you have to promise me something, too. You have to fight this. Don't give up. She nodded and buried her face in my chest. The next day, when Lily got home from school, she saw Claire's red-rimmed eyes. Mommy, what's wrong? She asked with concern. Nothing, sweetie, Claire said with a forced smile. Mommy's just a little tired. Then I'll give you a back rub, Lily said, climbing onto the couch and gently patting her mother's back with her small hands. Claire hugged her, fresh tears falling. I stood nearby, my heart aching. That night, as I was tucking Lily in, she asked, Daddy, is Mommy sick? I was taken aback. Why do you ask that? Because Mommy cries a lot lately, and she's always tired, Lily said. My teacher said that's what happens when you're sick. I stroked her hair. Mommy's fine. She's just been working too hard. Really? Lily looked at me, her eyes full of doubt. Really? I said with a smile. Now go to sleep, little one. Mommy will be all better tomorrow. Lily nodded and closed her eyes. I sat by her bed, looking at her small face, a storm of emotions raging inside me. If something happened, Claire, what would happen to Lily? She had just found a family, just started to trust us, just learned how to laugh again. I couldn't let her lose her mother. I stood up and walked out of the room. Claire was sitting in the living room, staring into space. She managed a weak smile when she saw me. I walked over and knelt in front of her. Honey, let's do the surgery. She looked at me, tears welling up again. For Lily, I said, taking her hand. For me, for my mom, and for yourself. Please. Claire looked at me and, through her tears, nodded. The surgery was scheduled for a week later. During that week, Claire spent every moment with Lily, as if trying to cram a lifetime of memories into a few short days. She drew with her, played games with her, read her stories, and held her for hours every night before she would leave her room. Lily seemed to sense that something was wrong and became incredibly clingy. She wouldn't go anywhere without holding Claire's hand and refused to sleep unless her mother was by her side. The night before the surgery, Claire sat in the nursery, watching Lily sleep, tears streaming down her face. I walked over and wrapped my arms around her from behind. Don't be scared. Everything is going to be okay. She turned and collapsed into my arms. Jack, I'm so scared. I'm scared I'll never see Lily again, that I'll never see you again. You will, I said, holding her tight. I promise you will. We held each other all night, neither of us sleeping a wink. The next morning, my mom came to take care of Lily. Lily was still asleep, unaware that her mother was about to have surgery. Mom, I'm leaving Lily with you, Claire said, her eyes red. Don't you worry about a thing, my mom said, taking her hand. You just go and get better. I'll take good care of her. You have to be strong, you hear me? Claire nodded, tears falling. She walked to the nursery door, took one last look at her sleeping daughter, and then turned and walked away. At the hospital, the nurses began to prep Claire for surgery. I held her hand, refusing to let go. Mr. Miller, you need to let go now, a nurse said gently. We need to take Ms. Thompson to the operating room. I released her hand, leaned down, and kissed her forehead. I'll be waiting for you, sweetheart. She nodded, a tear escaping and disappearing into her hair. The doors to the operating room swung shut. I leaned against the wall, my legs weak. I waited for 5 hours. 5 hours of pacing the hallway, of answering my mom's frantic calls with the same, still in surgery. Finally, the light above the door went off. I rushed forward as Dr. Peterson came out, pulling off her mask. Mr. Miller, the surgery was a success, she said with a smile. Ms. Thompson is a fighter. She pulled through again. My knees buckled. However, Dr. Peterson paused. We did confirm that the cysts were malignant. We removed everything, but she will need regular checkups to make sure it doesn't come back. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. When they wheeled Claire out, she was still unconscious. I took her hand and walked alongside the gurney to her room. Her face was pale, her lips cracked, her forehead beaded with sweat. I leaned down and placed a gentle kiss on her forehead. Welcome back, sweetheart. Claire woke up the next evening. She opened her eyes, saw me sitting by her bed, and after a moment of confusion, she smiled. I made it back again. I squeezed her hand. Of course you did, you fool. She looked around the room. Where's Lily? She's at home, I said. Mom's taking care of her. Does she know I'm in the hospital? She asked with concern. No, I said, shaking my head. Mom told her you were on a business trip. Claire sighed in relief, then started to cry. Jack, I miss Lily. You'll see her as soon as you get out of here, I said, wiping a tear from her cheek. For now, just focus on getting better. She nodded, her grip on my hand tightening. 3 days later, Claire was discharged. The moment we walked through the door, Lily came running and threw herself into Claire's arms. Mommy, you're finally home. Claire held her, tears streaming down her face. Mommy's home, sweetie. Mommy's home. Mommy, I missed you so much, Lily cried, burying her face in Claire's shoulder. Please don't go on any more business trips. Okay, sweetie. No more business trips, Claire said, kissing her forehead. Mommy is going to stay with Lily forever. I stood by, watching them, a warmth spreading through my chest. That night, after Lily was asleep, Claire sat by her bed, watching her, her eyes full of soft, gentle love. I walked over and wrapped my arms around her from behind. Honey, from now on, let's just live our lives. No more drama. She turned and wrapped her arms around my waist. Yes, a quiet life. I kissed her hair. I love you, Claire Thompson. I love you too, Jack Miller, she said, looking up at me, her eyes shimmering with tears. Marrying you is the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. I leaned down and kissed her. Outside, the moonlight streamed through the window, bathing us in its soft glow. In that moment, I felt a sense of perfect contentment. A loving wife, a child, my mother, a warm home. It was enough. 5 years later, Lily was in the 3rd grade, a bright and cheerful girl who excelled in school. Claire's cancer had never returned. Her biannual checkups were always clear. Our family of 4 lived a quiet, happy life. One weekend, we took Lily to the park. She ran across the grass, her laughter echoing in the air. Claire leaned against me, watching her. Jack, she said softly, do you think we have any regrets? I thought for a moment. No, I don't think so. Me neither, she smiled. I have you. I have Lily. I have Mom. I don't need anything else. I kissed her hair. Good. Lily came running over, tugging on her hands. Daddy, Mommy, come quick. I found a beautiful butterfly. We followed her across the sun-drenched grass. I held Claire's hand, watching our daughter chase the butterfly, my heart full to bursting. This was the life I wanted. Simple, peaceful, and filled with love. End of story.